What's good, y'all? Back again, another day, and it's bro talk, man. So grab a seat, get comfortable. We about to chalk it up. You know how we do. Get ready, open up your minds, and let's get into it. But before we do, let me tell y'all what we're talking about today. We're talking about patience, and we're talking about self-discipline. I got notes again. I really want to make sure that when I'm doing these, I'm giving y'all clear, concise information. I'm staying on task and focused, and I'm not veering off because, I realize that a lot of people are really appreciating these videos, and, it may not reflect it in the views or the likes or anything like that, but I'm getting a lot of text messages, I'm getting a lot of DMs, and a lot of people asking questions, a lot of people saying thank you. I even got a voicemail that was like 2 minutes, man, so I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate everybody, man. As always, I don't have all of the answers. I don't want anybody to think that, because I'm doing this, I think I'm perfect or I think I'm better than anybody else. I 100% do not. I'm still figuring it out. But, like I always say, man, is I wish that I had somebody that was willing to sit down and give me this information and tell me these kind of things a lot sooner, and I could have avoided a lot of mistakes and pitfalls. I could have saved a lot of money. I could have saved a lot of time, because we have these lives, and these lives expire, and we don't know when they're going to expire. So therefore we never know how much time we have, so we really shouldn't be wasting time. And I've wasted a lot of time making dumb decisions, and just through lack of knowledge and not knowing. So like I said, I always say, man, if I just help one person, then it's worth it. But without further ado, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share so we get it across the air. Make sure you hit that little bell so you can tell when I'm dropping content like this. But let's go ahead on and get started. So once again, we're talking about patience and self-discipline. And the biggest thing about patience, man, is just understanding that things take time, and it's a process. It's a process. In the beginning, when you're starting off at anything, you don't know anything, or you have a very limited knowledge of whatever that thing is that you want to get into. Let's say you want to be a musician, Yeah, you like music and you understand how music sounds, and you might even have skill, but you don't understand the business, you don't understand the industry, you don't understand the inner workings, the relationships, and all of that good stuff. You don't know any of it, and you have to learn it. So as you're learning it, you become a student of the game, and you understand it, you learn, you make your mistakes, and you find a mentor, hopefully, and they speed up the process for you. But either way, while you're going through the process, you're still a student because you're learning. And then once you graduate from a student, you become the teacher, meaning that or not necessarily the teacher, but you apply what you learn at a higher level. So, Robert Greene calls it the creative active phase, and a lot of this is going to come heavily from his content because I'm a huge Robert Greene fan, man. A lot of people don't like Robert Greene. They shy away from his information because they feel like it's devious or mischievous. But here's what I say, it's better to understand, even if you don't use any of that stuff, it's better for you to know what that stuff looks like so you can identify it and know how to deal with it rather than walking into situations blind. So once you moving right along, that was the end of that statement. So moving right along, when you finish that, the next thing you do is you become a master teacher, which means you execute it. You show all of your intricacies. You show all of your little things that make you unique and things that make you stand out. So once again, the process. And like I said, Robert Greene, check out the book Mastery. It goes deeply in depth in this. I'm just kind of paraphrasing, put my own spin on it and putting my own experiences into it. So, while you're in that ignorant phase and that student phase, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're being humble. You want to be very humble. You want to listen way more than you speak. You want to take notes. You want to try to learn as much as possible. Study. Or really, my favorite Marvel superhero is Doctor Strange. Only because in the first movie, he was a doctor, of course, and then he got injured, and through hard work, like he was pouring through books, he became the Wizard Supreme, the Sorcerer Supreme, and just looking at his attention to detail and how hard he was studying and how hard he was working, it reaped crazy benefits for him. So, and then even to the level, once he became Sorcerer Supreme, you can see his creativity stick out and him doing things outside of the lines and different from the other sorcerers, and that's what made him become Sorcerer Supreme, and that's what made Doctor Strange Doctor Strange. And also, if you notice his character arc, not to get too deep because I really want to focus, but he made a lot of mistakes and then he had to go back and fix them, and that's the thing. I can tell you, I can give you my mistakes, I can give you my lessons, but you're going to have your own mistakes. That's just a part of the process. A lot of people fear failure, but the time that you want to fail is while you're in your ignorant phase and while you're in your student phase, because that's when it's not going to cost you as much because you're still learning and people understand that you're a student. And that's also why you want to be very humble, because if you don't know anything and you're acting like you know everything, that means people aren't going to want to pour into you because you itch them the wrong way. You always want to come from a position of humility when you don't understand, because you have to learn. And so, from there, you also need to understand that you're going to have to sacrifice and you're going to have to go without. You're going to have to lose, Sacrifice is the thing, man, which I'm not doing the best at right now, because as I keep telling y'all, we're in the process of moving and getting a new whip. And, I should be doing a lot more saving than I am spending. But I also understand that you guys like to see me unbox stuff. You guys like to talk to me about fashion. So I got to do that too. So, it kind of is still a sacrifice. But even still, sometimes you have to sit down. Sometimes you don't have to go out as much. Sometimes you need to go to the Dollar Tree and buy your groceries instead of eating out. And, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to cut back. You got to save. You got to slow your roll and just sit back and be okay with that. And then that ties into the patience as well, because in our culture we feel like we have to have everything now, because we compare ourselves to rappers, we compare ourselves to these 1% people and think that we can become that instantly. But we always forget that there took steps for that to happen. Yeah, luck is involved, luck happens, but you also have to be at the right place at the right time. Or you have to be born into a family that has it, Most of us don't have that background, so, we just got to be patient and we have to understand. I'm not saying don't work, I'm not saying get complacent, but what I'm saying is you have to understand that it is going to take time. And while it's taking that time, you are going to have to not go out. You are going to have to miss some clubs. You are going to have to stay in and study so you can learn, so you can advance to the next level, so you can make more money and you get one step closer. You are going to have to cancel dates or not hang out with your friends or not play a game or whatever you want to do. There's going to be times where you have to sit down and have discipline for yourself so that you can invest in your future. And you may not see the returns right now, which is delayed gratification, but delayed gratification sometimes gets you way further than instant gratification. Instant gratification, excuse me, y'all. And honestly, I was watching a Rich Paul interview and he was talking about food. A lot of people want fast food. They want something quick and easy, but nothing compares to a nice, slow, home-cooked meal. You know what I'm saying? So just try to use that analogy when you're thinking about it. It's way more nutritious, hopefully. But, you always want to focus on the long term and think about what's going to benefit you in the future, which ties into discipline. It's a lot easier to have discipline when you know that you're on a journey and you're working towards something, rather than you just out here aimlessly and you don't have anything to lose. But if you know that, hey, I can't cheat on my wife because it'll destroy my family structure and it'll put me in a bad place, it makes things a lot easier, or I can't cheat on my girlfriend because one day she is going to be my wife, and 5 minutes of pleasure, or 10 minutes, whatever, of pleasure will destroy everything that I'm working towards and that I'm building. And this ain't for, I know it's a lot of playboys out here that have situations set up and they talk to their ladies and whoop-de-whoop. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you say that you're in a monogamous relationship and you're actively cheating, that's something totally different. Anyways, discipline, going back to discipline, basically it's knowing when to sit still and when, it's okay to move. Resisting those urges and temptations, controlling your impulses, removing yourself from situations. A lot of times we get emotional and we don't stop and think And I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it because ultimately we're human. But you know, just taking a step back and thinking, you know, if I do this, then what will happen? You know, back in my teacher's days, it was the if-then statement. If I do this, then this will happen. You just take a second and think, yeah, this person is screaming at me, this person is cursing me out. If I hit this person, what's gonna happen? You know, or even if it's a comment at work, you know, somebody's talking about something and you disagree with it, but you're at work, you know what I'm saying? If I get into a heated debate with this person at work, how is this gonna affect the future? You know, is this gonna jeopardize my position? Is this gonna stop me from getting where I need to be? Am I gonna destroy an alliance that could be particularly useful in the future? So, you know, discipline is not necessarily knowing what to do all the time, but sometimes it's knowing what not to do, when to not say something. Like, there's a lot of people out here that are, you know, wrapped in their own minds. Most of us are, to be honest, but they don't reflect and they don't look outward. So, you know, you have to be able to look at that person and say, you know, is me talking to this person logically or trying to help them out gonna hurt me? And, you know, that's discipline, knowing how to set yourself back and think, you know, what are the consequences of me doing X rather. And then another little pointer is understanding that inaction isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes you have to give time and just do nothing. You know, you just sit back and wait and see what happens. A lot of times things fall apart simply by you just giving in. Another one of my favorite shows, Ozark, Marty Byrde. I can't think of the old guy's name, but anyways, he was talking to Marty and he was telling him, you know, you just always try to fight against the current. You try to go upstream, you try to change things, but what you really need to do sometimes is just let go and then see what happens and go from there, you know. And oftentimes we feel like we have to do something, we have to push, we have to fight, we have to force. Sometimes what you need to do is just take a step back and do nothing and see what happens, and then come to terms after that. I know a lot of times in negotiations when I was wholesaling houses full time, you know, you push, but after a while you hit a certain point to where, you know, they're not budging, you're not budging, so you just gotta walk away. And, you know, you may lose the deal, that is a possibility. Or, you know, even with women, if you're out here dating, you know, you may hit up a woman 5-6 times and it just may not be that time. And the best thing that you could do is just walk away from the situation. And usually what happens is they end up coming back, you know. They try to shop around and they can't find a better project, so they come back. You know, I'm not saying do that intentionally or maliciously, but I'm saying there are times where you do have to consciously decide, you know what? I've done everything that I could. It's out of my hands, so I'm just gonna chill back. And, you know, by doing that, you know, it's an art and there's a skill to it. It just comes with time and understanding the scenario and the circumstances. So, you know, you just gotta kind of live a little, man. I don't really know. Like, it's hard to say in this scenario, this is when you need to pull back. You know, it's just sometimes you are gonna pull back and things are gonna fall through. And you have to be okay with that because you know that you've done everything that you could. And if you went any further, then you would have took an L. So yeah, there are cases where you have to stop and do nothing. So again, moving on to the next point, what else I wanted to tell y'all is by being patient and by having self-discipline, you get self-control and you get mastery of yourself. And really that's the ultimate goal as a human. What you want to be able to do is master yourself. That's why a lot of people fast and they don't eat, because they're doing things to build their self-control up. Last year I did the 75 hard challenge and I did it every day, staying focused, you know, and that was a form of me practicing self-control because my days were controlled, what I was eating was controlled, everything was controlled. Certain things that I stayed away from because I didn't want to start over. I journaled every day and I kept track of my thoughts and, you know, where I was at mentally, what I was feeling like. I was exercising, I was gaining mastery over my body. But in order to do that, it takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of patience. And, you know, through enacting self-control and self-discipline, you're literally rewiring your brain because you're breaking habits. it's easy to do things that you always do because your brain has created neural patterns to go down those things, and that's why it's easy. It doesn't have to require any effort or work. It's easy to just do what you're always doing, like I was saying, because your brain is already hardwired to do that thing. If you think about a pretty lawn, you don't have to do anything for the grass to grow if it rains and you have an area that has grass, because that's what it's wired to do. But if you cut your grass, you have to exert effort to cut the grass. You have to pay somebody. You have to go out there and do it yourself. You have to manicure your lawn. That's the same way that your brain works. You have to constantly decide that I'm going to be a different person. Instead of me falling into these habits that I know and these routines and these patterns that I've always done that may not be the best for me, I'm going to do something different. An example that I have of that, currently right now, and not to make it about myself, that's not what I'm trying to do, but it's just a really good example that I have. Drinking. I used to be a very, very big drinker. I haven't had a drink all year, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, I don't have the urge like that, really. There's some times when I'm out social and I kind of think about it, but other than that, not really. And, it's easy for me to pick up a drink because I've done it for so long, But for me to actually not drink, it takes conscious effort. And I have to say no, and I have to push myself. And, to be honest, that's why a lot of people never really grow, or they never really advance or move forward, because they don't want to put in the work. It's easier to just stay the same. It's easier to stay complacent because you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is keep living because your brain is already hardwired on autopilot. But to change and grow, it requires work. You actually have to, work for it to happen. Some books you can check out, once again, Mastery by Robert Greene. I love that book. I've read all of Robert Greene books. I strongly urge you to read Robert Greene books. And again, if you don't agree with what he's talking about and the concepts that he's providing, then don't read it from the position of, oh, I want to have the 48 laws of power, or I want to be a warrior, or I want to be, a seduction person. Read it from a position of, I know that there's people out here that have this book and they read this book and they read it with malicious intent. So I want to be aware of the book so I can understand what's going on. Both the David Goggins books are really good. You can read those. Another good one is Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink. That is a really, really, really good book. I enjoyed that one as well. You also want to check out The Power of Habit. Yeah, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. That's a really good book. Some movies that I can think of that show you what self-discipline look like. Definitely The Godfather, man. The Godfather is a classic. I would say if you watch The Godfather, then what you want to do is focus on, the politics of the family. Look at the difference between Sonny Corleone and Michael Corleone and see how that plays out. Also watch Fredo and look at how Fredo maneuvers, and look at the father and how he didn't really have a big role in the first one, but his presence was felt. Just kind of look at The Godfather from that perspective. Let me think. Star Wars. I know for sure chapters 4, 5, and 6, the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker, you can look at it and see, man, actually that's a perfect example. He was a student, and if you look at Anakin, you'll see, was Anakin patient? Was he humble? Those are things that you want to look at. It kind of shows what happens when you don't follow the process the right way, So those are some examples that I could think of off the top of my head. And if you guys have some examples of, discipline and patience, let me know what y'all think, man. Like I said, I really want to get into more discussions like this. I really enjoy Bro Talk, and I know that you guys enjoy it too. There's a lot of people, like I said, that are hitting me up, and I won't share that stuff because they sent it to me private. But a lot of people are hitting me up, and I appreciate all of y'all, man. This is going to do what it does. I'm doing it from the heart, so it'll blow up the way that it's supposed to, And then we got the other stuff that, you know, I'm pushing and I'm working on, but this is like my baby right here. This is my passion project. So let's keep focusing on this one, man. Once again, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share so we can get it across the air. Make sure you hit that bell so you can tell when I'm dropping videos like this. Stay tuned for more, and we're gonna chop it up again soon. All right?